All right, so picture this. You're finally at that point where you're able to help your adult child get their first home.
Huge milestone.
It is, right? And you're probably thinking, hey, I'll just give them mine.
Yeah.
Seems simple, generous, like the perfect parent move,
Right.
right?
Right.
But hold on a sec. Before you sign anything, we need to talk taxes.
Oh, yes.
Because it turns out there might be a much smarter way to handle this whole thing.
You're absolutely right. It seems counterintuitive, but gifting a house, it can sometimes backfire tax-wise.
Mhm.
We are going to dive into an article from Skloff Financial Group today, and honestly, you're going to be amazed at how much money you could save by actually selling your home to your child, even if you give them a fantastic price.
Whoa, okay. I'm all ears because this is not what I expected to hear at all. Walk me through this. How could selling possibly be better than just like giving the house as a gift?
Yeah, well, it all boils down to this thing called cost basis,
Okay.
which is essentially the starting point for calculating like how much profit you make when you sell something.
Uh,
So let's say you bought your house, years ago for $100,000. That's your cost basis.
Right.
If you gift the house to your child, they inherit that same low-cost basis.
Okay, I think I'm following so far, but I have a feeling this is where the trouble starts.
Exactly. If your child later sells the house, let's say for $600,000,
Okay.
they'll owe taxes on the difference between that sale price and that original cost basis of $100,000.
Oh,
That's a whopping $500,000 in profit. And depending on capital gains tax rates, they could be looking at a tax bill of tens of thousands of dollars.
wow. Yeah, that is a serious financial hit. Ouch. I'm starting to see why gifting might not be like the best route here.
Yeah.
So how does selling change the game?
Well, under current IRS rules, there are some pretty sweet tax exemptions on home sales
Okay.
that benefit both the seller and the buyer.
Interesting.
So you could sell your house to your child, even at a below market price, and potentially pay zero taxes on your profit.
Wow.
And your child would get a huge tax advantage when they eventually sell.
Wait, hold up. You're telling me I could sell my house, make a profit, and not owe Uncle Sam his dime?
That's right.
And my child would be in a better position, too. This sounds almost too good to be true.
It's true. And it's all about understanding how these tax rules work. The Sklouf article lays out 3 scenarios that really highlight the potential benefits of selling to a family member. They call them the quick sale, the midterm sale, and the long-term hold.
All right, let's break those down because I'm officially intrigued. Give me scenario number 1. What happens if my child decides to sell the house quickly?
Okay, so let's imagine your house is worth $600,000 and you sell it to your child at that price.
Okay.
If they turn around and sell it within a year for, say, $700,000,
Right.
they'll only owe taxes on that $100,000 profit,
Right.
not the full $600,000.
Gotcha. So even though they made a profit because they bought the house for me, their cost basis is higher, which means a smaller taxable gain. Makes sense.
Right. Now, let's say they decide to hold onto the house for a bit longer. This brings us to scenario 2, the midterm sale. Let's say they sell after more than a year, but less than 2 years, for that same $700,000.
Oh, okay. So their profit is still $100,000.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing something changes because they've owned the house longer.
You got it. When you hold on to an asset for more than a year, you qualify for something called long-term capital gains tax rates,
Oh, okay.
which are generally lower than short-term rates.
Yeah.
So in this scenario, your child would not only benefit from a higher cost basis,
Right.
but also potentially pay less in taxes overall.
Okay, I am loving this. 2 scenarios, 2 wins for my child. What happens in scenario 3, the long-term hold? This one sounds really interesting.
This is where things get really exciting.
Yeah.
If your child keeps the house for at least 2 years and meets some specific IRS requirements,
Uh-huh.
they could potentially sell it completely tax-free on gains up to $500,000.
Wait, did you say tax-free? Okay, now I know you've got my attention. Break that down for me. What are these magical IRS requirements?
It's not magic, but it does feel that way sometimes. The IRS has what's called the eligibility test, which basically ensures you're not just flipping properties to avoid taxes.
Right. Makes sense.
To pass this test, you need to have owned and lived in the home for at least 2 out of the 5 years before you sell it.
Ah, so it's about actually making the house your home, not just treating it as an investment property.
Right.
Makes sense. But tell me more about how this eligibility test works.
Let's dive into the details of that and see how these tax savings really play out in different situations. So you're right, it is all about actually like living in the home.
Right.
Think of it like this. The IRS wants to see that you're truly using it as like your primary residence.
Okay.
They're not just trying to game the system for tax benefit.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes total sense. But what exactly does the IRS look for?
Right.
Do I need to keep track of every single day I spend at the house?
Well, you don't need to keep like a minute-by-minute log or anything, but you do need to be able to demonstrate that you've lived there for a substantial period of time.
Okay.
The IRS considers factors like where you're registered to vote,
Mm-hmm.
where your car is registered,
Mm.
where you receive mail, things like that.
Oh, okay. So it's about establishing a clear pattern of residency,
It's
showing that this is truly your main home.
Yeah. And there's another like interesting nuance to the eligibility test.
Okay.
You could only use this tax exclusion once every 2 years.
So no flipping houses and claiming the exclusion over and over again.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense. They want to make sure this benefit goes to actual homeowners, not, real estate moguls.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's designed to help families build wealth and achieve those homeownership goals,
Right.
not to encourage like speculative real estate deals.
Totally. Okay, so far we've talked about how selling to a child can create a higher cost basis for them, leading to smaller capital gains when they sell.
Hmm.
We've also covered the eligibility test for that amazing tax-free scenario.
Right.
But this whole conversation started with you saying that both the seller and the buyer could benefit from tax breaks.
Yeah.
We focused a lot on the child buyer benefit, so remind me how the parents benefit from selling instead of gifting.
Of course. It's important to remember that under current IRS rules, you can exclude up to $250,000 of profit from the sale of your primary residence if you're single,
Whoa, okay.
or up to $500,000 if you're married, filing jointly.
Wait, really? So even if I make a profit selling my house, I might not owe any taxes at all?
That's right. As long as you meet the ownership and residency requirements that you've owned and lived in the home for at least 2 of the past 5 years,
Right.
you can take advantage of this exclusion.
This is incredible. It's like a win-win scenario for the entire family.
It is.
But just to be crystal clear, in the case of parents selling to their child, both the parents and the child could potentially benefit from these tax exclusions.
Yes, exactly. That's what makes this strategy so powerful.
Yeah.
It can significantly reduce the overall tax burden for the family as a whole.
It's amazing how a little bit of knowledge about these tax rules can completely change the way we approach financial decisions.
Absolutely. And it highlights the importance of thinking strategically and exploring, all available options.
Yeah.
What might seem like the obvious choice, in this case gifting, isn't always the most advantageous.
Right. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We've talked about cost basis, capital gains, the eligibility tests, and those incredible tax exclusions for both sellers and buyers. But the article we're diving into focuses specifically on parents selling to their children.
Right.
I can't help but wonder if this strategy could be applied to other family relationships as well.
That's a great question, and you're right to think beyond that parent-child dynamic.
Yeah.
While the article uses that as an example, the underlying tax principles that we've discussed could potentially apply to other situations as well.
Such as, give me some examples. I'm sure our listeners are curious too.
Well, imagine a grandparent who wants to help their grandchild get into their first home.
Okay. Yeah.
Or maybe you have siblings who want to co-own a property.
Uh-huh.
These tax benefits might be applicable in those situations too.
This is really making me rethink everything I thought I knew about real estate and taxes. But of course, as with any, major financial decision, it's essential to do your research and seek, personalized advice, right?
Absolutely. This deep dive is just a starting point.
Right.
We're giving you the knowledge and insights to start asking, the right questions.
It's like we're handing you a treasure map.
Yeah.
But you need to do a bit of exploring to find the buried treasure.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
So if you're considering selling or gifting property to a family member, it's crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor.
Right.
Yeah.
They can help you navigate the complexities of the tax code, explore all your options, and develop a personalized strategy that meets your specific needs and goals. Don't try to decipher the IRS rulebook on your own. Let the professionals guide you.
Exactly. Think of it as an investment in your family's financial well-being.
Yeah.
It's worth every penny.
So we've covered a lot about how selling can be more beneficial than gifting. But I'm curious, are there any downsides or risks to selling within a family that we should, flag for our listeners?
That's a fantastic question. And it's important to consider, all angles here. One potential downside is that selling, even at a below-market price, it still requires your child to qualify for a mortgage,
Okay. Yeah.
which might be, more difficult than simply receiving the house as a gift.
Right.
And of course, family dynamics, they can sometimes get complicated when money's involved.
Oh, for sure.
It's important to have, open and honest conversations to make sure everyone is on the same page
Yeah.
and comfortable with the arrangement.
That's a great point. It is so important to be upfront about those expectations and make sure everyone feels good about the arrangement before moving forward with any of this. Because at the end of the day, family harmony is priceless.
Absolutely. Financial decisions should strengthen family bonds, not strain them.
Right.
Open communication and transparency are key.
Well said. Okay. As we wrap up this deep dive, what's the biggest takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with?
I think the most important message is, challenge the status quo.
Hmm.
Don't assume that conventional wisdom is always the best approach.
Yeah.
When it comes to big financial decisions like transferring property within a family, it pays to dig deeper.
Right.
Understand the nuances and explore all available options. You might be surprised at what you discover.
Right. Sometimes the most generous act isn't necessarily the most straightforward one. A little bit of strategic planning and a willingness to challenge assumptions can make all the difference.
Exactly. And remember, knowledge is power. The more you understand about these financial rules, the better equipped you'll be to make informed decisions that benefit your entire family.
This deep dive has been such an eye-opener for me. I'm definitely going to be having some conversations with my own family about these strategies.
That's fantastic. And remember, we've just scratched the surface here. There's so much more to learn and explore when it comes to personal finance and wealth management.
Exactly. This is just the beginning. It's like we've planted a seed, and now it's up to you to nurture it, do your own research, ask questions, and seek guidance from qualified professionals.
Well said. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep those aha moments coming.
That's the perfect note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this fascinating journey into the world of gifting versus selling your home. And remember, when it comes to your family's financial well-being, a little bit of knowledge can go a long way.